प्रेजेंटेड बाय ईबिक्स कैश। हर खुशी के लिए काफी है।
Good evening and welcome. You're with us here in Business Today. I'm Abha Bakaya. Here are the headlines tonight. Sensex nosedives over 500 points on weak global cues. Nifty ends below 17,650. Metals, PSU banks worst hit. Major relief to debt-ridden telecom space. Government notifies 100% FDI in the sector under the automatic route. Big boost for the textile sector. Cabinet allocates over 4,000 crore rupees for 7 mega textile parks under PM Mitra scheme. Ace investor Rakesh Jhunjhunwala meets Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman. Meeting comes a day after the big bull met the Prime Minister in the national capital. Zee founder Subhash Chandra speaks exclusively to Business Today TV. Questions the real powers behind Invesco. Wants the government to intervene. The Indian stock market snapped a two-day winning streak to end on a negative note on Wednesday. Both benchmarks are down about 1% amid weak global cues. Sensex closing at about 59,190. That's about a 500-point cut. And the Nifty also at about 17,646 for the day. Let's take a look at some of the gainers and losers. Holding out in an otherwise weak session, Tata Consumer Products, ONGC, UPL, Britannia, some of the names there on that list. But the pressure really being seen on those metal names. Commodities slumped and we saw the likes of a Hindalco down 4%, Tata Steel, JSW following suit, and Indusint also cooling off after the recent run-up that we've seen in that counter, as with SBI Life. So some amount of profit booking also coming in there. IT, metal, pharma, auto, realty, PSU bank indices all falling up to 3% today. Mid-cap and small-cap indices down about 0.5 to 1.2%. So that was the action in the broader markets. The Modi government has notified 100% FDI via automatic route in the telecom sector through a formal notification released by the DPIIT today. This comes days after the CCA announced a comprehensive relief package for the India telecom sector. Business Today TV accessed this notification. My colleague Karishma joining us with more on this. Karishma, talk us through, the kind of relief this is likely to bring. Will this help to alleviate stress for the sector?
Well, right, Abha, the government has infused life into the debt-ridden telecom sector by making a series of relief announcements. And today is the day where DPIIT under Ministry of Commerce has released this, where they now allow 100% FDI via automatic route in the telecom sector. Earlier, it was supposed to be 49%, and anything beyond that had to go through the government route. Well, this is just not making the process simpler, but if you see with all the other kind of reliefs that were announced by government in the month of September, including that of 4-year moratorium and the AGR rationalization, this of course stands as a way that the government is trying to bring relief to the sector. Let's not forget that shares of Vodafone and Airtel shot up to a day's high in September because of this relief coming from the sector up to a really long time.
Karishma, thanks so much for taking us through that important notification today. Now, the Union Cabinet has also approved a huge package for the textile sector. First announced in this year's budget, the Cabinet has approved setting up of 7 mega integrated textiles region and apparel parks under the Prime Minister Mitra scheme. The total outlay in the next 5 years for this is 4,445 crore rupees. According to the announcement, the scheme is inspired by the 5F concept of farm to fiber, to factory, to fashion, to foreign, and is expected to generate more than 3 lakh jobs in each park. Now, while a maximum of 500 crore rupees will be given as development capital support to greenfield projects, the amount is set at 300 crores for brownfield projects. States have been asked to provide a continuous land parcel of more than 1,000 acres for each park. Chetan Bhutani joining us live on this. Chetan, two important notifications in Cabinet. Take us through the kind of significance this will have, and especially for the textile sector.
Well, Abha correctly pointed out about the textile sector. Well, it's also a early festive season for the railway employees. The two important decisions have been taken by the Union Cabinet today. First, about the railway sector productivity-linked incentive bonus equivalent to about 78 days wage will be given to non-gazetted employees. Bonus for FY 2021 will benefit about 11.56 lakh railway employees at a cost of about 2,000 crore rupees. Coming to the textile part, 7 mega integrated textile parks would be developed as a part of PM Mitra scheme at a cost of about 4,445 crore rupees. These textile parks would be developed as a special purpose vehicle between the states and the center on PPP mode, which will all, of course, enable spinning, weaving, processing, dyeing, and printing and garment manufacturing all at one place instead of the value chain at different locations, thereby reducing the logistics cost. So definitely about 10 states have shown interest as what the ministers announced in the Union Cabinet briefing. So definitely a good news for the textile sector, but of course, of early festive season for the railway.
Great, Chetan. Thanks so much for joining us with that. Moving on, a day after his image with the Prime Minister went viral on social media, ace investor Rakesh Jhunjhunwala today met Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman. He was accompanied by two associates, Utpal Seth and Amit Goela. While Seth is the CEO of Jhunjhunwala's company, Rare Enterprises, Goela is one of the partners in the entity. The Big Bull, as Rakesh Jhunjhunwala is affectionately called, has incidentally applied for a no-frills airline license. Now, with Navratra as just a day away, there could be bad news for consumers. Analysts say India energy prices may be headed further upwards. It's not only the rise in petrol and diesel prices, but also a reported shortage in coal supplies, which could lead to power outages across the nation. Here's a report by Rishabh Mishra.
The first to feel the pinch is the consumer at the petrol pump. Another 30 to 35 paise increase in the prices of petrol and diesel on Wednesday. That's not all. Even CNG prices were hiked on the 1st of this month, making public transport in the National Capital Region costlier. With global economies recovering from COVID, prices at the petrol pump have shot up this year, rising from 83.71 per litre on the 1st of January to over 90 in April, 99 by July and 103 rupees today. The rise in diesel is also comparable, from 73 in January to 19.5 rupees per litre today.
It was somewhat surprising that OPEC Plus decided not to put any additional oil into the market. It's a balancing act for them. Perhaps some like Saudi Arabia or Russia could unilaterally have just decided to put more oil into the market. Pump prices will continue to follow the rise in the international benchmark crude prices. There's just no solution to that, other than perhaps the government rolling back a little bit of the tax component.
The rising fuel prices can be attributed directly to crude oil prices, which have risen in the past few weeks to $82 per barrel and are predicted to rise to $100 by the end of this year. Oil-producing countries have refused to hike production, and demand usually rises in the West during winters. Meanwhile, household budgets have further been hit due to a rise in PNG and LPG prices. While piped gas prices were hiked by nearly 7% earlier this month, non-subsidized LPG was increased by 15 rupees a cylinder.
This is creating a huge problem for governments across the world. This is going to become a huge quandary for the central bank in India.
It is among these threats of rising energy prices, coupled with inflation pressures, that the RBI Monetary Policy Committee begins its 3-day meeting in Mumbai today. But the central bank, like the central government, is stuck between a rock and a hard place, balancing between growth and prices. Bureau Report, India Today.
Here's what else is making news in the corporate world today. IRCTC shareholders have approved the proposed 1:5 split in the company's share. The stock split will be effective 29th October, and each equity share with a 10 rupee face value will be split into 5 shares of 2 rupees face value each. The stock has risen from 3,287 rupees to its current value, 4,483 in just 1 month. Fintech company Bharat Pay has announced its entry into the Buy Now Pay Later segment with the launch of PostPay. The new platform provides credit to customers to buy now but pay later from anywhere. Customers can use interest-free credit limit of up to 10 lakh rupees. Flipkart-backed logistics platform Shadowfax has launched the first of its kind super app to connect delivery executives with the various apps on a single platform. The company claimed that this is India's first super delivery app. U.S. congressional testimony of former Facebook product manager and whistleblower Frances Haugen has put spotlight back on the tech giants and its policies, its decision-making. Facebook has denied most of the whistleblower's comments, calling for congressional scrutiny of its policies on content that's harmful for children, is divisive, and it harms democratic processes. Now, these are some of the averments that are growing worldwide, but Facebook clearly right now refuting those claims.
Frances Haugen left Facebook with thousands of documents that she claims prove her allegations to the media, the US market regulator and the US Congress. Haugen's revelations about Facebook's policy for markets outside the US were chilling. She said Facebook does not dedicate equal amounts of research and resources to misinformation and hate speech to non-English content, focusing instead on profits. And she is not one to mince her words.
Yesterday, we saw Facebook get taken off the internet. I don't know why it went down, but I know that for more than 5 hours, Facebook wasn't used to deepen divides, destabilize democracies, and make young girls and women feel bad about their bodies.
Many senators agreed with her demand for more congressional oversight on Facebook's operations.
Our children are the ones who are victims. Teens today, looking at themselves in the mirror, feel doubt and insecurity. Mark Zuckerberg ought to be looking at himself in the mirror.
On his part, Mark Zuckerberg dismissed the whistleblower's claims, saying the argument that Facebook deliberately makes people angry for profits was illogical, adding that advertisers did not want their ads next to harmful or angry content. Haugen's dramatic revelations have put the heat back on Facebook. And despite the bluster and denials, Facebook could face increased legislative scrutiny the world over. Bureau Report, Business Today Television.
I'm Siddharth Zarabi and you're watching Business Today. Joining us on the show is Mr. Subhash Chandra, the chairman of the SL Group and founder promoter of media behemoth, the Z Group. Welcome, Mr. Chandra, to the show. Let me begin by asking you about recent developments surrounding Z Entertainment Enterprises Limited and the investor who has been seeking the removal of the MD and CEO, Mr. Puneet Goenka, as well as changes to the board. You have already gone on record and said that Invesco is not being transparent behind the reasons for seeking these board level changes. I want you to tell our viewers, why are you saying so? If you could please explain that.
Thank you, Siddharth, for having me on your show, and namaskar to the viewers. मैं आपको एक बताना चाहता हूँ कि Z और Z Enterprise is not purely a business for me and for my family. It's a passion. It's ये एक यज्ञ है और क्योंकि मैं और मेरी फैमिली डेट ट्रैप में आ गए थे तो हमने अपने एसेट्स बेचकर आफ्टर सेलिंग द एसेट्स वी हैव पेड आवर डेट वी हैव गिवन मनी बैक टू ऑल द lenders and everyone, and whatever remaining small is there, we are paying them back. As a result, our ownership of Z have reduced to only 4%. Or shareholding in Z has reduced to 4%. Today, Z is not owned by us or our family, nor by any singular shareholder. It is owned by public, 250,000 shareholders. The company did a deal with Sony of Japan to merge Z and Sony's business in India into one company. Invesco doesn't seem to be supporting this transaction. At the same time, why I said that Invesco is not being transparent, because today we only know, or at least I know only this, because I am no more a director of the company, nor I am any official of the company. I am only chairman emeritus, which is a title but no authority or responsibility. So what they have said is that remove the managing director and 2 shareholders, those have already resigned. So today's contestation is only remove him and appoint 6 of their nominees.
Right.
Now question is, that means it's a takeover of the company.
Yes.
Takeover of the company without complying the takeover code of the country, without complying various other laws which are prevailing of the land. Because of this lacuna being available, that a 10% shareholder can call EGM
Yes.
and change the board or remove the board and a managing director, etc. Now, no harm. They are well within their rights, perhaps. But they have to comply with the laws and then seek the shareholders' voting.
Right.
All I have suggested yesterday, first time I have spoken, is that let Invesco suggest what is their deal. They are a private equity company. Are they going to run the company? Zeal? If yes, let them say so. But as from all the things which we can see, they seem to have done some deal with somebody behind the scene, and that they are not coming out transparently. Let them say what their deal is with whosoever it is. Even if they don't want to give name, let them not give the name. Let them give the deal and let the shareholders decide both Sony deal and the Invesco deal.
Sir, you have given us several questions to ask and I am going to take them one by one. The first obvious question is, if Invesco is not revealing who is behind them, if at all, and you are right in saying that they are a private equity fund and they are really not operators of companies in some way. Do you suspect who is behind them? Do you think there is someone and Invesco is acting at someone's behest really?
I don't want to make a guess, Siddharth, but I can definitely feel that there is someone. And why there is someone? Because Z, if I say in Hindi and in Indian thinking, Z is a beautiful girl which has got created by the act of God, I would say, because when we launched Z, there was nothing in India. It was the first private sector television after Doordarshan. And because there was a vacuum, there was a space, it got created. I also don't claim that I am a creator. I am a founder, but I cannot create Z the way it is. As I said to you, it's a company which has got created. If anybody wants to recreate it, 10 lakh crore रुपया, I repeat, 10 lakh crore लगा के भी Z recreate नहीं हो सकता. इसलिए इन्वेस्को, जो कि हमारा बहुत पुराना शेयर होल्डर है, 10-12 साल पुराना शेयर होल्डर है, शायद जब हमने शुरू किया 92 में, उसके साल 2 साल बाद ओपनहाइमर बिकेम आवर शेयर होल्डर. लेकिन ये इन्वेस्को का हमें समझ नहीं आ रहा स्ट्रक्चर क्या है. ये ओपनहाइमर है कि ओएफसी चाइना कंपनी है, ये क्या है? लेकिन इनका व्यवहार बदल गया पिछले साल भर से. That
Mr.
their
Chandra,
behavior is saying that there is something.
To your knowledge, anyone else joined hands with Invesco? Because like you said, you have a diversified shareholding. Your own shareholding is at 4%. Is anyone else from the investors coming along with Invesco?
There must be. Otherwise, Invesco cannot do this clandestine, quiet, illegal takeover of the company.
You've also spoken, Mr. Chandra, about not just the need for transparency on behalf of a private equity fund. You've also spoken about a regulator. Do you think this is a fit case for some sort of intervention, perhaps even by the I&B ministry, the government, to look at this entire situation that has been created?
I'm actually, Siddharth, surprised that SEBI has not acted. Ministry of Company Affairs have not acted. They have not, to my knowledge, they have not even asked a single question to Invesco that when you are taking over this company, the takeover code applies, you have to make an open offer to the shareholders. Let them make an open offer to all the shareholders of 75% and take the company, no? At least as a founder, as a creator of this, I would have satisfaction that, okay, my 75% shareholders have been rewarded, have been given what they wanted, and that's why they've decided to participate in the open offer. Let them take the company.
I understand that point. Mr. Chandra, as I wind down this conversation, I have a couple of points further to ask you. The 6 directors that have been proposed by Invesco, now obviously this is a media company, you need at the board level also some amount of supervisory experience, oversight experience. In the names and the candidates who have been proposed, does that reveal anything to you? Do those names give you any hint of what could possibly be behind this whole exercise as we started this conversation, that point?
Siddharth, you have the names of those people. You are capable. Your organization is, again, a very big media company. You can definitely find out. I don't want to make single guesses. Yes, I can only say that none of them, I repeat, none of them have got any experience of media business. None of them, they are respectable people. Don't mistake me. I don't know any one of them personally, but whatever I have read about them, they are respectable people, but they don't have 1/5 of experience of the current board of the Z company.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chandra, and we will keep tracking this development, and thank you very much for your time with us today. With that, it's a wrap on this conversation with Subhash Chandra, the founder chairman of the SL Group.
Thank you, Siddharth.
And Z.